You debated last night, so now it's your turn. Now you need to tell me if something's not clear or what you need help with. One thing, tomorrow, Gen said he's going to come in the evening. And so at 6:30 tomorrow, please just prepare any questions that you might have for him. So instead of the debate session, I think he's still here for another month. He said that he would like to try and come on Wednesdays. So the Wednesday afternoon session tomorrow will be Serkong Rinpoche, and then in the evening at 6:30 will be Gen. Yeah, so whatever questions you have or whatever you'd like to ask, then you can just ask Gen tomorrow at 6:30. But for now, we'll follow the standard one. So this is discussion time. Anything from yesterday or something from today that you would like clarified? Can you use the mic, I think, Venerable? I think there's a floating mic. Yeah. Oh, here. Sorry.
If you could go over the fourth one, not cat, not dog.
It's the same one that I think you and Ornella came up with. But just let's do that instead of me telling you what it is. So take not cat and not dog. It follows they are inclusive, exclusive, they have 4 possibilities, or they have 3 possibilities. Except? I'll go slowly. By the way, are you comfortable with asking them like this, or do you like the something that is both, something that is neither? You're okay with this? Okay, great. So, we're doing not cat and not dog, yeah? Okay? Take not cat and not dog. It follows they're inclusive, exclusive, they have 4 possibilities, or they have 3 possibilities. What? Which one? 4. 4? Yeah? Okay. If it is not cat, it follows it is necessarily not dog. For example, if it is not cat, it follows it is necessarily not dog. Cow? Okay. If it is, sorry? If it is not cat, it follows it is necessarily not dog. For example, dog. If it is not dog, it follows it is necessarily cat. For example, cat. If it is not cat, it follows it is necessarily not dog. Except? Is everyone except? Have you understood how to work this out? I was actually sitting in the room and I was trying to think how the best way to think about this is. Is anyone getting really stuck with the double negation? Who said yeah? Yeah. So think of it like this. When you have a double negation like that, right? Take something. So take this book. It follows it is a cat. Take this book. It follows it is a cat. It follows it is not cat. Right? That makes sense? Okay. Now take a cat. It follows it is not a cat. Take a cat. It follows it is not a cat. Take a cat. It follows it is not cat. That's how you go about it, right? So when I say, if it is not cat, it follows it is necessarily not dog. To make sense of the statement, you can start taking things and testing whether they are not something. And how you can go about doing it is, so like we'd say, not pillar, okay? Take a pillar, it follows it is a pillar, except. Then you step 2, you add a negation to it. Take a pillar, it follows it is not a pillar. Why? Take a pillar, it follows it is not a pillar. Got it? So then you can try and work out double negations like that. So when you say, if something is not cat, right? The only example that you can come up with is cat. So if something is a cat, in other words, so it's like the mathematical negative being positive kind of thing, right? If it is not cat, it follows it is not dog. If something is not a cat, it follows it is necessarily not a dog. Good, that's it. Okay. So now what they were getting stuck on, what you found yesterday, or Nella and you found, and then what you're asking right now is, take not cat and not dog. It follows they don't have 4 possibilities. Huh? It follows they don't have 4 possibilities because there is nothing that is neither. That's the one. So remember yours, this one, is it redundant thing? You can say why. It follows they have 3 possibilities. Why? It follows they're inclusive. Why? It follows they're exclusive. Why? It follows they have 4 possibilities. If you say except, then give me a possibility of something that's neither. That's where sometimes you'll find yourself stuck. Does that make sense? Neither non-cat and non-dog. Is there anything that is neither not cat nor not dog? Yeah. So either it's a cog or a dat or like a liger kind of thing, but that doesn't exist, right? So there's no such thing as a cat and dog. So what these are called are like, the only way I can translate is it's closest to 4 possibilities, so you call it a hybrid 4 possibilities, right? Because if you have to fit it within the scheme, it's not got the complete overlap. It's not got one subsumed within the other. There's just a partial overlap of something that can be both, right? So it's closer to 4 than the other one, so it's like a hybrid 4 possibilities. But strictly speaking, it's neither. Does that make sense? Yeah? Did you get that? Strictly speaking, it's not 4, it's not 3, it's not inclusive, it's not exclusive. Within the standard structure of 3, 4, inclusive, exclusive, right? But you can put it in the category of 4 because it's closer than it is to the other ones. Yeah? That's it. Which one? For which one? For the last question? If it is, so then you just think about it. If it is not cat, it follows it is necessarily not dog. No. So there's no reason that's been given. You're just asking, no? So if something is not a cat, it follows it necessarily has to be a non-dog. It's an except or a why, right? So which one is it? Except? Why? If something is not a cat, it follows it necessarily has to be not a dog. Are you getting stuck on the not? So then do that thing that we just did. Think of anything. Just start thinking of anything that you want and see whether it is a cat. Then see if it is a not cat. And then see if it is a not cat. So take it, just start. But do it aloud. Do it with me. Reject? Okay, do it. What is not? What are you checking? So take like that book in front of you and ask, is it a cat? No, so it's not cat. Is it not cat? It is not a cat? It's not a cat, so it's not a cat, right? Right? If it's not a cat, then it can't be not a cat. So what's the only thing that can be not a cat? Take a dog, it follows it is a cat. Take a dog, it follows it is not a cat. Take a dog, it follows it is not a cat. So therefore take a dog, it follows it is not a cat. That's not an example, right? So dog is not an example of not a cat. What's the only example of not a cat? There you go. So if it is not a cat, it follows it is necessarily not a dog. Because the only thing that you could give as an example of not a cat would be cat, which has to always be not a dog. So you don't have a possibility of something that is neither. That's where they were getting stuck. Yeah? Yeah? Can you pass the mic? Is that okay? So even with 3 possibilities, sometimes you come up with something like this. Yeah? There isn't an example of neither in this one. Yeah. Between you and me. Oh no, in another case where there's no example of neither.
Just one.
You want another one? I mean, you can do it with all the knots. Not table and not spoon, not pillar and not pot, not anything. So all the knots will be like that. Yeah?
I have to think about it.
Yeah, yeah. Good. Okay? Yeah. But let's do it because you brought it up. Once I saw that you have some, just can we do one more and then we'll get into it? Let's do it with this. Take not pot and not impermanent. It follows they're mutually inclusive, exclusive, they have 3 possibilities or 4 possibilities. That was really fast. Who said that? Oh, Shma. What is it? Not pot and not impermanent. Huh? Not pot and not impermanent. Or let's go with not form. Let's just make it easier. Not pot and not form. Is there something that is that, what is it? Is it 3, 4, inclusive, exclusive? Not pot, not form. 4? You're saying closest to 4, so it's not a technical 4? Yeah? Okay. 3? 3? 4? Why are you so hesitant? What is it? Dinesh ji? 4? 3? Martin, what is it? No, not anything, because a pot can't be not pot. So everything that is not a pot. Is the same. Anything that is not form. So what is the not pot and not form? 3? You're still on 3? Maybe 4. 4? Kelsey, how many are you going to change? 3 and 4. Fine. So now you check, okay? If it is not a pot, it follows it is necessarily not form. I change it to form to make it easier. Yeah? 3. Answer the first one. If it is not pot, it follows it is necessarily not form. For example, huh? A pot. Cat. Color. I mean, I'm sounding polemic, but I can make any kind of expression I want to scare you. You just have to be confident and answer. So, what is it? Give me an example. Form. Consciousness. Okay, carry on. Okay, let's just go. So we have consciousness. I heard, what else? What else did you say? Pot. Ball. You said pot. Who said pot? You said pot. Oh, okay. Fine. So we have to check pot and conscious. You take it back? Okay. So, say something else. A pan. Okay, fine. Form. We're talking about form. Okay, so when we're not specifying it, then material form. Just material form. Okay? So what is it? You want to change your opinion? Yes, that one. Because when we say the other one, we'll say visible form always. Okay? 3, you're still 3? Okay, fine. If it is not pot, it follows it is necessarily not form. For example? Huh? I'm starting again, huh? If it is not pot, it follows it is necessarily not form. For example? Space. Anyone else? Table. Elephant. Fine. Fine. Second one. If it is not pot, it follows it is necessarily not form. Pan. For example, I have pan, consciousness. What else do we have? Pillar. Okay. Space. Okay. Third one. If it is not form, it follows it is necessarily not pot. For example. Huh? What did you say?
I say agree.
Oh, you agreed. If it is not form, it follows it is necessarily not pot.
No.
You agreed?
Oh, yeah, yes.
You accept?
Agree.
You agree? There's 2 agrees, there's 3 agrees. Any more agrees? 4? Agree? Why? Okay, what is it? Agrees? Okay. Last one. If it is not a pot, it follows it is necessarily not form.
Why?
For example,
Pot.
pot. So this one has something that's neither. Now the first one, now you can ask, okay? Because now you have definitions, right? Take consciousness. Was it? No, what did you say for the first? Pan. Pan. And then we have consciousness. Take a pan. It follows it is not a pot. Take a pan. It follows it is not form. Take a pan. It follows it is form. Take a pan. It follows it fulfills the definition of form. What is definition of form? Material form, huh? That which is? That is capable of materiality. Okay? So take a pan, it follows it is capable of materiality. Take a pan, it follows it is not an example of not pot and not form. It follows it is an example of not pot and not form. Is it an example of not pot and not form? So it follows it is not the example for the first one. It follows it is an example for the first one. The first one is, if it is not pot, it follows it is necessarily not form. I'm asking the same question in the easier way. Is there something that is both not pot and not form? Yeah? What? Consciousness. So it follows pan is not a correct example for something that is both not pot and not form. Right? So if you said pan to the first answer, is that correct? It's not, right? Because the first answer has to be something that is not pot and not form. If you say pan, pan is form. Correct? Okay? So the first question, if it is not pot, it follows it is necessarily not form. You cannot, you can say pan, but it's not correct because the answer has to be something that is not form. Yeah, so when you say why, you are saying if something is not a pot, it doesn't mean it has to be not form. So you're saying, in other words, if something is not a pot, it doesn't mean it has to be form. When I ask you for an example, you have to give an example of something that's not a pot and not form. Correct? Yeah? Of course. When I asked the first question, the difference between asking a question and just making it clear and asking a question and having the response clarify it is when you say why to the first one, you are saying everything that is not a pot doesn't have to be not form. Because in your mind, you're thinking there can be something that is not a pot and also not form. That's why you say why, right? Yeah? Right? If I say if it is a pot, it follows it is necessarily not red. When you say why, you're saying everything that is a pot doesn't have to be not red. So you have to give an example of something that is a pot and red. So when you add a negation to the second one, then you end up with everything that is not a pot doesn't have to be not form, which amounts to saying there can be something that is not a pot and also not form, and also exclude not form. For example, the only thing is consciousness, or things that are neither form nor pots. Yeah? Is that okay? Yeah? Yes? Yeah? Now the second one. Now this is, you said pan. If it is not pot, it follows it is necessarily not form. For example, now a pan will work. Yeah? Because a pan is not form, sorry, it is not a pot, but it is form. Maya, is that okay? Yes? Yeah? Again, if it is not a pot, it follows it is necessarily not form. For example, okay, now take consciousness, it follows it is not a pot, it follows it is not form, it follows it is not an example of something that is not pot, but is B, is it? So your A is not pot, your B is not form. This question is asking for something that is A but not B. Exactly. Huh? It can't be a pot, but it has to be form. Right? So consciousness won't work. Does that make sense? Yeah, so when you say why, you're saying something that is not a pot, getting. So what's happening is, have you noticed what's happening? Good. What's happening is, you are conceiving of it without your answer. I'll tell you why. When I'm saying, if it is not a pot, it follows it is not form, without your answer, you have to think of not pot and not form. That's all that you're doing. Which is then why you're saying, well, consciousness is fine, because it's not a pot and it's not form. But the second you say why, you're not thinking of these two anymore. You're saying, if something is not a pot, it doesn't have to be not form. Right? Right? So what is the example that you come up with? You have to think of something that is not a pot, right? But is not a form. So you have to end up with something that is a pot and is form. Yeah? Does that work? If I ask you, if it is pot, it follows it is necessarily form. Yeah? Or if I ask you, if it's form, it follows it is necessarily a pot. What will you say? What will you give me as an example? If it is form, it follows it is necessarily a pot. Everything that is form has to be a pot. For example, a cat. So when you say why, what are you saying? In other words, if it is form, it follows it is necessarily a pot. When you say why, what are you saying? Now try and interpret what the why means, because you've been saying why. Yeah, so now think about it. When you say why, what do you mean? Why would you say why? No, if I tell you everything that is expensive has to be beautiful, will you agree or will you say no? Everything that is expensive has to be beautiful. Do you agree? When you say you don't agree, what do you mean? And you say you don't agree. When you don't agree, why don't you agree with me? Yeah, why don't you agree? How will you prove that what you're thinking is correct and what I'm thinking is not correct? Normally in the world, what do we do when we discuss these things? No, but then you explain yourself, no? How would you explain yourself? Of
my statement.
Give me an example of your statement.
Not everybody likes Picasso. It's expensive and maybe it's not beautiful.
Perfect. So you've given an example of something that is expensive but not necessarily beautiful, right? So it's the same thing over here.
Yeah.
Everything that is form has to be a pot. When you say why, it's the same thing as saying everything that is expensive has to be beautiful. You're saying why, and you're thinking of an example of something that is expensive but not beautiful. Picasso. So when I say everything that is form has to be a pot, when you say why, your example will be something that is form but not a pot.
Yeah.
Correct? Now, this much is clear to everyone. Is this much clear to everyone? This is normal. This is how you normally do things. Right? Is this, you know that this is how you do stuff, right? Right? Like, you know, I've given this example many times to them already, they've heard it. When we were younger in India, we used to think everything that came from the States was really good. So then I had my relatives who got me these really ugly sweaters with Jurassic Park on them. And I wore them to school, and everyone was like, what the hell is wrong with you? And I was like, it's really nice, it's from the States, okay? And they all went quiet, they're like, oh, okay, must be. Right? So as they got older, then we were like, wait a minute, not everything from the States has to be good. So you think of an example. Now my Jurassic Park sweater that I wore proudly is a perfect example of something that is from the States, but it's really not very good at all. Right? So we had this thing, what? I'm going to show you a photo. If I find it, you'll know. Right? So it's a very natural way of thinking where someone says, whatever is this has to be that, and you disagree. The fact that you disagree has to be reconciled by an example that you can say, look, this is that, but it's not the other one. Right? So if it is form, it follows it is necessarily a pot. Why? For example, that's what you're doing. You're doing the same thing that you do in everyday language, in everyday communication, in this structure. Now, what's happening is when you get tripped up with the negatives or the negations, you're forgetting that you're doing this, and you're just getting stuck on the two terms, which is not, however, what you're supposed to be doing, because that's not what your answer indicates, right? So if it is not form, or let's go with pot. If it is not a pot, it follows it is necessarily not form. So now, if you don't do the same process that we just did before and you get stuck on, because you panicked, you're like, oh my God, not pot. Okay, not form. I have to think of something that's both. And then you're saying consciousness. That's not what your answer suggests. Your answer is saying otherwise. You're saying, if it is not a pot, does it have to be not form? When you say why, you have to give me an example of something that is not a pot and not form. That's why pan, cat, well, cats, maybe it works. Pillars, red, blue, green, tree, table, all of these work. Does that make sense? So if you start getting into the habit of translating debate language into your normal way of thinking, then, so this is what happens. Last night you all did exceptionally well. You were all very excited, probably. You woke up thinking this is doable. Now you're listening to it again and you're like, oh my God, it feels like I didn't understand anything, right? Translate it into normal English. Sometimes it helps. And then when you go back to debate, you'll understand a little bit more tonight. And then tomorrow morning you'll wake up and you're like, now I've really got it. And then you'll get thrown another one of these relations between two things. And again, you'll feel lost. And you say, oh my God, I haven't got it again. With each time that you haven't got it, you're essentially facing a new doubt and a new thing that's not clear. Okay? So with the negations, it's always going to be trickier. But the format is the same. Does that make sense now?
Yeah, but what do we have to do now?
So let's try. If it is not a pot, it follows it is necessarily not form.
Yeah, this is a question. What do I have to ask?
So do you agree that if something is not a pot, it has to also not be form?
No, don't agree. And the
For
question
example?
is why?
So, for example,
Space.
space you're giving as an example of what, Martin? What are you giving space as an example of?
Of not form. Of not form.
But I'm asking you, am I asking you for an example of not form or an example of not form?
No, I didn't know.
if something is not a pot, does it have to be not form? In other words, if something is not a pot, can it still be form?
Yes, it can.
For example,
A cat.
a cat. Now when I'm asking with the negation, you're getting stuck. But it's the same question. If something is not a pot, does it have to be not form?
No.
For
Because
example?
space.
Okay, now when you say space, you're giving
Or
space as an
consciousness.
but you're giving space as an example of not pot and as an example of not form, right? But you're saying, when you're saying why, what are you saying when you're saying why? Just try and understand what you're saying when you say why.
I think no.
No, no to what? You're saying something that is not pot doesn't have to be not form.
That's it.
That means there can be something that is not pot but still be form. It's the same thing. Everything that is not a pot doesn't have to be not form. Because there can be something that is not a pot but still be form.
Slowly,
Again.
Yes, I've got an idea what you mean.
Let's
but
do it again,
I've
let's
got
do it again,
not
let's do it
really.
again. If something is not a pot, does it have to be not form? Why? Means everything that is not a pot doesn't have to be not form. Because something can be not a pot and still be form. The why is adding a negation, right? Got it? So if it is not a pot, does it have to be not form? Why? It doesn't have to be not form, which means it can be form.
But what could we do in this case?
So you say why, and you give an example of something that is not a pot but is form. That's why space and consciousness don't work. Does that make sense?
Okay, also penware is okay.
Cat is fine. What did you say? What else?
Table.
Table, cat, tree, pillar, light, whatever. That's all okay.
Yeah.
Now think of it this way.
Yeah,
If it
yeah.
is not form, it follows it is necessarily not pot. If something is not form, can it be pot?
No.
If it is not form, it follows it is necessarily not pot.
No.
If it is not form, it follows it is necessarily not pot.
No.
For
Why?
example,
Same space.
again, think of the language behind it. If it is not form, can it still be pot?
No.
If it is not if it is not form, does it have to not be a pot?
Again?
If it is not form, does it have to not be a pot?
I think I got lost now.
It's okay, one sec. How do you say it in German? If it is not form, it follows it is necessarily not pot. Oh.
Yes.
Does that make sense? Is it easier in German?
So I'm over now.
Okay.
Maybe would be good to have it 10 minutes before, but now I'm
Okay,
crushed
fine.
with it.
Then tonight when you do it, because last night you were doing it really well, all of these with the negations, and you came up with the whole structure. So you'll try again later and you'll get it. Right now when it's like over, then just let it go.
So
drop
I'm
it.
over
Yeah.
the point.
It's fine.
and
It's fine.
Understand nothing
It's fine.
anymore.
It's like it's the pressure. It's about to explode. Leave it.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Anyone else? Yeah. I think that question also somehow has implicitly saying why are we complicating things so much, right? But it's not that. If you're taking, you know why? It's nice actually, because when you take negations, or you think of negations, when you say not pot, or you say not tree, right? Everything that is not that thing fits in that category, right? Correct? Now what you'll do later, and yeah, it's this year only, there's negative phenomena and there's positive phenomena, right? When you're talking about negative phenomena, you're talking about phenomena in a certain sense that there are certain things that exist, right? That can be, therefore, if they exist, they can be perceived by valid cognition, they can be demonstrated, they can be discussed, they can be reference of words. So when I speak of something that is a negative phenomenon, unlike things that I'm familiar with, which is just perception through contact, that's a class of phenomena that it requires some sort of exercise for me or my mind to be able to understand it. So when I say this is not table, it's very different from perceiving this as microphone. Perceiving this as microphone is you knowing what a microphone is, you coming into contact with it, and you finding a very good referent for microphone. So it's a very quick cognitive act of recognizing something you know. When you say this is not a table, it requires you to recognize what this is, it requires you to consider what a table is, it requires you to look for those features of a table over here, and then negate that it exists over here. Correct? So that's how negative phenomena exist, or that's how they demonstrate, that's how they manifest to your perception. Now the fun thing about adding double negations and triple negations is, the second you start negating on a negation, your mind is doing another exercise. So it's saying this is not Mike. You look for something that is not Mike, and your mind can go and start looking for a class of not Mikes. Okay? You'll find it everywhere, but you won't find it here. And so when you won't find it here, you will automatically negate that not Mike exists here, which is the same thing as saying this is not Mike. So because the conceptual process of investigation already does it, that's why these things exist. If they exist, you might as well start getting familiar with how they are and how you approach them, because then when you do things like emptiness later on, that's solely working on negations as concepts or as principles. Now, you don't have to go through a double negation, that's okay, but double negations exist. And the exercising in the double negations is helpful because it helps you understand how to narrow your camp of inquiry, how to extend it, what gets included within a certain negation, what gets excluded within a certain negation, right? So when you do all of that, your ability to grasp these negative phenomena becomes a lot more helpful. So when you study negative phenomena, this exercise will help you over there. And when you study negative phenomena, then when you study emptiness, suddenly it has so much more meaning. And because the final purpose of studying is eventually, when you do di jita vachochin, you're doing it with the intention of understanding or establishing emptiness. That has to be understood via negation. So the conceptual process is very important. So much so that this year, the last subject that we're doing is the first chapter. Why we've chosen the first chapter, just so you know, is because the first chapter explains how the conceptual mind engages in objects through eliminative processes. That's why we've chosen it. Because if you don't understand how the mind engages in things via negation, all the discussion that comes up later it's just vague. So double negations, you could just speak in a positive sense. But in a positive sense, you're not understanding what negations are. It's more confusing, but that confusion will be later. It'll come later when you're even doing negatives and when you're doing phenomena. There's a Serkong Rinpoche said this actually the other day. You can ask him when he comes tomorrow. Serkong Rinpoche said he had a teacher. He told us this the other day. He had a teacher. So in Dudra, there's this very tricky subject called isolates, right? For those of you who are familiar with it, excellent. If you're not familiar with it, don't worry about it. There's a subject called isolates, which is rather tricky, and it's all dealing with how you eliminate things. It's all about eliminative procedures. Serkong Rinpoche's teacher once told him, he said, oh, when you're studying, I only experienced the real benefit of Dudra when we studied isolates. But he hadn't had the chance to teach Serkong Rinpoche isolates. They'd only done up till a certain point. And then he said, I feel slightly sad that I wasn't able to do this with you, because my real flavor for Dudra began when I started studying isolates, and I hope we'll have a chance again in the future to do it. And then he passed away. So Serkong Rinpoche still remembers this, because the whole idea of isolates, negations, understanding things in a different way rather than just coming in contact with them is a very integral part of all the investigation that you do coming forward, right? So there's two reasons why, to summarize. One, because they exist. Double negations exist. If they exist, then how do you know them is important, number one. Number two, because when you practice in engaging with them, then it helps you understand things like emptiness, selflessness, all those things that come later. So they're very relevant. Could you sidestep them? Sure you can. To speak of Mike, you don't have to speak of not Mike, 100%. But if you don't speak of not Mike or not Mike, then when you come to not intrinsically established, you're going to end up having to say, well then, let's just talk about the book. Why are we talking about the book is not intrinsically established if you're just talking about the book, right? Mm-hmm. So there is a purpose why there's so much emphasis made on it, okay? Now, in the long run, it ties up to that. In the short term, it's just for enhancing your thinking and having to stress out about it a bit. Pramana Vartika, the last thing that we're doing this year, yeah.
Is it a mistake to, when you hear not, to just think, like not cat, to just say cat? Is that
So I think, I think we all fall back on that. It's very natural just to resort to that as an easy outcome. It's fine. And I think most of us will do it. And I think for anyone who's done even very basic elementary mathematics, you do negative, positive. So it's a very, like you fall into that quite effortlessly. But what you're doing when you do that is you're not going through this, because it's a process. You can see how it's a process, right? That's why I said take something. Is this a book? Yes. Is it not a book? No. So when you're thinking, is this not a book? You're looking for whatever for you book means, and if that's findable here. If it's findable here, then you're saying, well, this is a book, therefore it can't be not a book. The moment you say it's not a book, then if you think, well, is it not a book, you're saying the category not book doesn't exist here, therefore the category not book gets eliminated here. Therefore the category not book is negated here, refuted here, eliminated here, counteracted here, therefore this is not a book. So the idea of not is a concept, is a thing that you arrive at through conceptual elimination. That's why if you simplify not and not and not into just mathematically like how many minuses, pluses, then you're taking away from that ability to do it. But once you have the ability to do it, then it's quick. Also in the monasteries, when there's a tradition where the Geshe Lharampas, when they finish their studies, they have to go and sit for all of these group debates. So when you're like an 8-year-old or like a 14-year-old Dudra student and you got like a Geshe Lharampa first in his grade, studied 25 years, you know that it's not going to be easy to debate against them, right? So there's one subject which is called, it's so funny. It's like pot, not pot, not pot, not pot, not. That's like a subject that they do. So because they need to start tripping up the geshes, they'll take the subject, take not pot, and not pillar. And then they'll debate it, but they've prepared it. So they've become really well versed with, I've said so many negations, there's 5 of them. And then you see the geshes sitting there answering, not. Odd number, therefore it's not. Not. Even number, so it's a positive thing. Because you resort to that as a quick fix solution, right? So it's fun to debate because it keeps you on your toes and it makes you really have to think about it. And that's something that you can easily catch the geshes off on. But the importance of it is understanding how your mind can engage in phenomena through elimination and then merely through observation, right? That's the importance of negative phenomena, okay? Yeah?
I don't know if this is off topic, but in my mind saying
How?
Because when I say this microphone is a non-cat, and I say that it belongs to the class of non-cats, I like draw in my mind as if visually the class of non-cats.
And when you say it's not a cat?
But then I say that there is a circle of cats, and this microphone is outside this circle.
Okay, so when you're saying the microphone is outside the circle cat, when you say the microphone is outside the circle cat, and when you say the microphone is in the circle non-cat, you're saying the same thing in two different ways, because you've created two circles. You've created a non-cat, and implicitly there is a cat circle. There's a non-cat and there's a cat circle. When you consider this, by placing it there, you're placing it there because it's not there. By not being able to place it there, you have placed it over there. So it's a different way of saying it, but it amounts to the same thing. Yeah? One, you're refuting it from the category not cat, from the category cat, and one, you're placing it in the category not cat. But because the category not cat itself is a category that is the elimination of cat, it is the same thing. It amounts to the same thing. Yeah? Yeah?
But this is right, that this is two different mental processes.
They're two different mental processes. I don't know if I would even say that. But it might be. You can try and consider whether they are or not. Because this being not a cat and this being a non-cat, later they're both non-affirming negatives. So by definition, I don't think you could qualify them as two separate things. Yeah? But that's later. That'll come later. Yeah? Okay? Non-nots. Sure, so do it. What is the relationship between something that has three possibilities with, what do we do? So let me not do the ones that you're going to be doing later, okay? What is the relationship between something that has three possibilities with red and four possibilities with color? So if take that which has three possibilities with red and that which has four possibilities with color, it follows they're mutually inclusive, exclusive. They have three possibilities or they have four possibilities. Huh? Inclusive? Can we do one thing? Because I just want to make sure that, I don't want to make sure, I'm sure of something. I just want to make sure that you are all sure that you're not clueless. Can we just do an easy one? What is the okay, take red and color. It follows they have three possibilities, four possibilities, they're inclusive, exclusive. What is it? Three. No one's struggling, right? So the easy ones, you're all good. Let's try. If it is color, it follows it is necessarily not red. For example, red. If it is red, it follows it is necessarily color. If it is color, it follows it is necessarily red. For example. If it is not red, it follows it is necessarily color. For example. Huh? Pink. You want to give pig, okay. Yeah? Is that okay? Yes? Kai? Yes? Yeah? I'll see you later in the evening when you're doing debate. Okay? So with the standard ones, it's easy now, right? You've made it slightly easier. Can we make it one step easier and then make it complicated? So what is the relationship between something that, take something that has three possibilities with red and color, okay? It follows they're mutually inclusive, exclusive, they have three possibilities, they have four possibilities. Something that has three possibilities with red and color.
I'm getting hung up by the category of three possibilities in red.
Yeah. I can imagine. Let's do it. Let's do it. If something has three possibilities with red, it follows it is necessarily not color. For example, except? Now let's listen to what the others. Who said why? Give me examples. No, I don't want to see you people who've already been doing debate for 3 years give me answers. You people give me answers. Is there something that has 3 possibilities with red and is also color? What? Color. What else could be an example? Primary color. Right? Is that okay? Right? So primary color has 3 possibilities with red. Take primary color. It follows it has 3 possibilities with red. It follows that there's something that's both primary color and red. It follows there's something that's red but not primary color. There's something that's red but not primary color. Something that is red but not a primary color. Why? If it is primary color, it follows it is necessarily red. For example, blue. Is there something that's neither red nor primary color? There's something that's neither red nor primary color. Venerable you. Yeah, no, blue is a primary color. Neither red nor primary color. Neither red nor primary color. Yeah, exactly. So primary color has 3 possibilities with red. Yes? Got it? Okay. And it is also color. So there is something that has 3 possibilities with red and is color. Yes? So to the first question, is there something that has 3 possibilities with red and is color? So take that which has 3 possibilities with red and color. It follows they're not mutually exclusive. That much you can say for sure, right? Right? So now they're either 3 possibilities or they have 4 possibilities. Or they're inclusive. Yes? Yeah? Are you following? Are you following? I don't know. Okay. Let's do the second question. Who's saying 3, who's saying 4, who's saying inclusive? Because exclusive we've discarded. You're on 3? Okay. Yeah. No, so now this is okay. You know, I have to confess something. I find this very interesting. Because for many years, while I've tried to be doing this logic, I've seen like these stone faces, like just, it looks like there's panic. And the first answer that comes out of your mouth is, I don't know. And my father was like this for a very long time. My mother was like this for a very long time. It was like, I don't know. Then you dig a little bit deeper, and I'm not sure that I can take your I don't know for granted. I think it sounds so daunting that you've not done the step, because the second I do it, you'll be able to follow along. So I don't think it's an I don't know. I think you have to just try a little bit and then you'll figure it out, because in itself it's not difficult. So what I'm saying is, can there be something that has 3 possibilities with red? If I ask you this question, do you say I don't know? So when I say, is there something that has 3 possibilities with red, will you be able to answer? Color. Or is there anything else that has 3 possibilities with red? A red ball. Anything else? Functional thing, visible form, impermanent, all those, right? So you can think of something that has 3 possibilities with red. So you're not confused on that part. Now what you're getting confused on is, so now we're saying if something has 3 possibilities with red, hence everything in this universe that has 3 possibilities with red, does everything in the universe that has 3 possibilities with red, right, does it have to be color? Right? That's what it is. Got it? So when you say except, you're saying everything on this planet in the universe that has 3 possibilities with red has to be a color. If you say why, then you're saying no. There may be something that has 3 possibilities with red that is not color. So it's not like you don't understand it, But not just you, this is just across the board. So now I take it with a touch of, like with a pinch of salt. I have to be skeptical of your own assumed non-knowledge, because it's just confusing in the beginning. If you work it out and you just say it out, it makes sense because you've already been doing it. So it's just when you add things up, right? Okay? I can't give you other examples of things, but never mind. Okay, actually I can give you an example. Have you ever, I'm sure some of you've done yoga, right? Or like some sort of physical activity. Have you ever seen where they make you like work on one pose for a really long time, and then they make you do another one for a really long time, and then you do a third and a fourth, and one day they walk in and they're like, okay, do a headstand. And you're like, I can't do it. But you don't know that in having worked out your lower back, your legs, your arms, your shoulders, and having done certain movements, essentially you have been primed for being able to get into a headstand. So when the instructor comes and says, just do it, you'll suddenly notice that it all starts clicking into place. What will prevent you is that hesitation of falling over. It's kind of similar because you've been prepped. You know what 3 possibilities are. You've done it many times. You know what color is. You know where red falls into. So you're all familiar with all of these things. The initial hesitation is, oh my God, what do you mean 3 possibilities with red? I don't know what that is. But if you just work it out one step at a time, it'll start to fall into place. So just notice your own initial, like, I don't know what's going on, and just work at it. Because there's nothing new here. It's all stuff that you've done. You're just piecing it together, okay? So can we go back to it now? Yeah, yeah.
Just to clarify, so when you're asking if there's 3 possibilities with red, it can, the circles, either red can be the big circle or red can be the little circle, it works either way.
Exactly, right? Exactly. So you can find something that has 3 possibilities with red, where red is on the bigger one or red is in the smaller one. Both ways it'll have 3 possibilities with red, correct? Now this took you 1 day to figure out. It's been 40 hours since we started. So it's not that hard. That's all I'm trying to get at. I'm trying to encourage you. You're looking very demoralized. Please, it's not so hard, okay? So if something has 3 possibilities with red, it follows it has to be color. Very simple, right? Suddenly, you already knew this. For example, existent, functional thing, impermanent, right? Is that all okay? Yeah? Take impermanent, it follows it has 3 possibilities with red. Impermanence. Yeah? Now in English we'll have this little impermanence dance for a while, but that's fine. It has 3 possibilities with red. It follows there's something that's both red and impermanent. For example, red. If it is red, it follows it is necessarily impermanent. Except if it is impermanent, it follows it is necessarily red. For example, blue. Dog, anything. It follows that there is something that is neither impermanent nor red. For example, Okay, fine. It follows red and impermanent have 3 possibilities. Done. Okay, take impermanent. It follows it is red. It follows it is color, sorry. Why? So it is an example of something that has 3 possibilities with red but is not color. Now, if it is color, it follows it has 3 possibilities with red. If it is color, it follows it has 3 possibilities with red. Yeah? All of you accept? For example? Yellow. Take yellow, it follows it is color. Take yellow, it follows it fulfills the definition of color. Take yellow, it follows it fulfills the definition of that. It follows it is that which is suitable to be a hue. So it is color, right? Take yellow, it follows it has 3 possibilities with red. So it's an example of something that is a color but doesn't have 3 possibilities with red. So there is an example that follows that something that has 3 possibilities with red and color they don't have 3 possibilities amongst themselves. There's 4 possibilities, right? It follows that something that is neither color nor has 3 possibilities with red. Sky, flower, horns of rabbit, all of those, right? That's how you work through it, okay? Yeah? Yeah.
But how am I gonna know all this so fast when somebody asks me? It follows the calculation. And then how can I
Did you grow up speaking English? Did you grow up speaking English? Did you learn? How long did it take you? Like 2 days? How long did it take you? 1 month? Longer? Long time, right? You still, now you speak it faster than you did before? Same thing. It's exactly the same thing.
It's just when there is this relation, I try to pick a
Yeah,
possibility and then
that's exactly
I
it.
can guess, but then I cannot know.
So you can try. When you guess, the nice thing is that the difference between this and learning a new language is here, you have like a way to test whether it is that or not, no? Like when you're learning a new language, you're like, you think in Spanish of a word that you want to say, because you're still learning a new language, you have like synonyms. You're like, I could say it like this in English, like this in English, like this in English, like this in English. This might not be the best one, that might not be the best one, but you have no way to test which is the best one. Over here, at least you have a way to test which is the right one. So if you're looking for something that has 3 possibilities with red, it's not like you just have to pick randomly from the sky, because whatever you pick, then you can test whether it has 3 possibilities with red. It's just the steps are more, but we're making the steps more on purpose. So when will you get fast? Very quickly. But will it be now? Probably not. Also, I have to confess something to you. If you asked me this, I would also struggle, because it's not like I've memorized everything on under the sun that has 3 possibilities with something and 4 possibilities. Like, I'm going to have to go through the same process, right? So I'll also take a while. I might be faster because I've done it more, but I'm also going to have to say it. When we were walking down with Gen on the first day, we were discussing what to make you do. And then when we reached the bridge over here, we laughed because we're like, we're going to make them do all of these 3 possibilities, 4 possibilities, but when they turn around and ask us, we're also going to have to really think about it. Because we don't know, right? You still have to think about it. But the beauty is that there is a way to think about it and develop that skill. So speed is not important. It's just the practice that you get out of it. Okay? Yeah.
I have a very similar question.
Yeah.
If someone asked me like the relation between not red and not color, then maybe I can figure out the relationship after I do the 4 questions, but not
Yeah.
before. So what is the best strategy? Like sit there thinking for an hour before I say which one of the 4 relationships?
No, like I said yesterday, just launch. Just toss in the dark. Just throw. Say something. Because if you sit there and you think about it, you'll just be taking up so much time. You'll be like, my God, what are the 3? And then as they get more... Shmuel, I know, Shmuel really says that, but he's also become faster, so he won't take like 15 minutes. If you're going to switch partners in half an hour, and you spend 15 minutes thinking about the first question, you're not really getting time. So just say whatever comes, and then test it, right? You have a structure to verify it, that's why. So don't get stuck on saying the right thing, okay? Yeah? Are you all good? Yeah. Yeah. Because when you're saying accept, you've accepted the position of the other person. Okay? So now, getting a little bit out of the debate structure just so that you understand how it works, no? Okay, so now come back. Now we can do things that you're familiar with, okay? Now this is explanation. You don't have to stress. There's no hand clapping, none of that. This is just now what we are familiar with. Okay. So how does it work when the language that's been devised? The language has been devised with the purpose of generating inference, right? To generate inference, the claim is that you need to have something that you have to base your inference on, which is syllogisms. Now, like we said yesterday, syllogisms can be consequences, structured as consequences, or they can be structured as reasons. When it's structured as a reason, then the reason that I am giving is used to prove a predicate which to you is unknown. Correct? Otherwise, there's no purpose for me to give a reason. So when I say take something, it is something else, you will necessarily say why. If it is in a situation where I'm giving you a reason. The reason you will say why is because you're not sure about it. So until you have certainty, you will not say except. Okay? So when you do say except, therefore gets limited to consequences. Now, in a consequence, if you say except to the predicate, correct, and your predicate is accurate, to me, the challenger, I know that there is nothing left for me to do. Because that's something that you might believe in or you know, but there isn't much scope for me proving it to you. Okay? If you don't say except and you say why, then I know that I can try and give you a consequence to try and show you something further on a why. If you say except and your position is wrong, then I know I can give you a consequence to show that your position is mistaken. But in a dialogue, if both of us accept that predicate, then there's nothing left for us to discuss about in that moment. Okay? That's why when you say accept, it's a sign that I can gauge whether I also accept, and if I don't accept, then I'll try and give you proof to show otherwise. If I also accept, then there's nothing left for me really to do. So it demarcates the thing. Why I don't ask for an example when you say accept is because it's clear to both of us that what we're talking about is clear. If you say why, then I'm going to wonder why you're thinking that, and then I'm going to develop some sort of reasoning or a line of investigation to analyze what you said. So they have very specific roles at each point which make clear how to proceed along the investigation. Yeah? So when you say why, then I can immediately give you another reason or inquire as to what you're thinking. When you say accept, it's obvious to both of us. There's no further need for checking or withdrawing out your thought process behind it. Yeah?
Yeah, I think, but this also will come through a lot of practice.
This then when you do debate all the time, when you say accept, you'll always say, okay, well then, there's nothing much for me to do.
Sometimes in the first question, the thesis which is presented, the predicate is pretty much understood. Even in this simpler, like the
Yeah.
non-clause, non-fangs, this came out.
Yeah.
It occurred to me, but by the time you reach to, if it is B, if it is not, it follows it is A, the predicate, even when you say accept, you intuitively know that this is incorrect.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. But then, so what you'll start to notice will happen with debate is, for the sake of practice, this is not for polemics or not for, there's no sophistry involved here. It's not for polemics. If someone says accept and you also believe it, then it's very interesting because this suggests that at the beginning that you try and disprove it. So then you try and take the opposite position and then you try and disprove it. So that also isn't something that arises when you say when you respond with accept. That's more in a practice kind of state. So that's why accept doesn't bring out a response from the person. There's no need, actually. Yeah? It's made it clear. When you start saying why, then you're still concerned as to, you could be curious as to what the reason for them disagreeing with that thesis is.
Right.
Yeah.
Earlier you made a distinction about difference between using reasons and using consequences.
Yeah.
I didn't quite remember that from your previous.
So Gen said this the first day. You can use consequences. I didn't say this, Gen said this the first day. Consequences have the purpose of showing inconsistencies in someone else's views. Reasons have the purpose of establishing something. They're separate. They're used in separate scenarios. Yeah? So the first chapter talks about reasons. The fourth chapter of the Pramana Vartika talks about consequences. It's quite beautiful. It's known as, in Tibetan they say, so how do you know things? You use reasons. So reasons are a tool for you knowing something. And then consequences are used as tools to help other people know things. So you use consequences, you can be the recipient of a consequence as well. But when you're using consequences, why you study them, how to formulate them, is because you use consequences to understand someone else's position and then show them how it's wrong. So our text had given, remember, take sound, it follows it is not produced because it is permanent. Do you remember the first day when Gen was teaching? That's a consequence. Yeah? That's what it is. Okay? Yeah.
So what if there are two persons
if there are two persons debating, the challenger asks text sound, it follows is impermanent, and the defender agrees. But in actuality, the defender agrees for very shallow reasons, like because it is in the scriptures, and the challenger has deeply realized this. So they both agree, it's in response to what Abhishek has asked. They both agree, but actually one has realized it was why the other has not. Isn't there room for debate in such a case?
The room for debate is there, but it's no longer on impermanent. There's no longer in trying to prove that it's impermanent. First, you will, if the challenger knows what the defendant is, if the challenger knows what the defendant is thinking, right? So what the challenger can then challenge the position of impermanence, right? And so then what ends up happening is you start asking, why do you think it's impermanent? Or you will start debating against it being impermanent. So you'll say, take sound, it follows it is not impermanent for whatever reason that you might do. But that's only in a situation where a challenger knows that the other person hasn't understood something. At face value, if both of you say it's impermanent, there isn't any room left for dialogue or discussion further on that. Yeah? Yeah. In Tariq also, there's some situations where you give a syllogism, the other person says accept. So there's some scenarios where Buddhists are debating with non-Buddhists. The non-Buddhists give a syllogism, the word that they're using is accepted by the Buddhists, but the Buddhists know that the meaning of the word they're using is different from how it's been understood by the Buddhists. And therefore at that point, they will say, why? Even though they would accept it literally, right? So then there is two kinds of reasons. Reasons that are given to the explicit statements that are made, and then reasons that are given to the underlying belief. But to be able to debate with an underlying belief, you have to know what the other person thinks. So that's what you then try and uncover. You heard that story of Dharmakirti. I keep saying the same things again and again. You heard the story of Dharmakirti, who went and worked as a cow herd in this, I think he was Sankhya. Have you heard this? The story is that there was this Sankhya scholar, I think he was Sankhya, I'm not sure. And he was one non-Buddhist scholar. And Dharmakirti wanted to understand his position, or their real position. And just by debating with them, they wouldn't let it all out. They would kind of withhold it a little bit, right? And so Dharmakirti was desperate to find out what it was. And so the story goes that Acharya Dharmakirti, he went and worked in his house tending to the cattle. And earlier the cattle herders were kept really distant, right, from the main household. And then he tried really hard, he worked really hard, and then he got noticed, and then he got called obviously closer to the inner workings of the house. So then he was near the main residence, in the compound. And then he understood that this teacher was explaining their real, their in-depth philosophy, or the real crucial points of their philosophy to the wife. And so Dharmakirti befriended the wife, and then this took a really long time. It wasn't this, apparently he did this for many months. At one point when he'd really befriended and they were really close to each other, he asked if he could please receive the teachings, and she said, well, he's not going to divulge them to anyone. So what I can do for you is, at night you hide under the bed, and I'll ask him to explain them to me, and then you can hear them. This is a real story, huh? I mean, I don't know if it's happened, but that's part of the story. And so at night then, this master starts teaching his wife so when we say they're inner secrets, this is an external analogy for something, right? The inner doctrine means that you can have an original position that is really hidden and undisclosed. And then from that you can develop a lot of other arguments that are very superficial. But if you don't connect them to an underlying core belief, then you can disprove secondary arguments or beliefs without really changing one's genuine position. So to disclose the real heart of a certain doctrine was very rare. It didn't happen easily. Anyways, that night this master discloses the doctrine to Dharmakirti. He finds out. The next part of the story is, it's a little, I don't know, it seems deceptive. He goes back to Nalanda and he challenges him to debate, right? So he's like, now I know what you're thinking, let's go. But the point is, when you're debating with someone else, or you're debating with yourself, oftentimes you find yourself believing in certain things that someone in debate might prove to you that you're wrong, but you're not convinced. And oftentimes that lack of conviction might be because there is an underlying belief that you just can't let go of. And so to be able to use debate as a tool to unearth the underlying belief that it's all grounded in is very, very helpful. Okay? So when you're debating with someone else, you can try and draw it out from them, and then when you've learned how to debate and how to reason, you'll often find yourself that you'll find certain really weird answers coming up from yourself that will suddenly disclose to you that you have some sort of insane underlying belief that you were completely oblivious to. And if you consider how the 4 Buddhist tenets are also made, right? There's 4 schools. Why do you think the Prasangikas have such a hard time debating with the others? Is it because they are not intelligent enough? It's not that, right? They're well versed in logic and debate. I mean, Acharya Dignaga and Dharmakirti, they were like the pioneers of Buddhist reasoning. It's because there's an underlying belief or like an underlying conviction that's hard to break. So if you have that underlying belief, it leads to an entire set of doctrinal other secondary beliefs or practices. So when we debate or when we study tenets, there's one way to study tenets, which is, oh yeah, sure, they're saying these things, how daft. And many of us study tenets like that. Like we study all the 4 schools and we're like, yeah, of course, the Madhyamika are the best. They make so much sense. All these other, what do you mean partless particles? How dumb? How can you say something like that? Even scientists know it's not like that, right? So that's one way to study tenets. The other way to understand why they say certain things is because there's an underlying core belief that has to be addressed. So when you're just debating with someone, if they just say everything that you're saying and they parrot with you, then parrot whatever you're saying, there's nothing there. But if you try and dig an underlying belief, then it's very helpful. So this entire digression was, eventually remember that you might feel that you're always debating with someone else, but at some point there'll be some weird, unexpected core thing that'll just pop out, and then you need a way to address it. So if you learn how to reason it out, it really, really helps. Yeah? And so this is something that repeatedly starts to come to the surface the more you debate. Now it makes sense why Gen's analogy of bringing up doubts is like washing clothes and getting the dirt to rise to the surface. Every time you have something that comes up, you are essentially finding a very peripheral reason or argument for something that is deeply entrenched in what you think. Okay? So that's going to slowly start coming up. Yeah? I don't know, it might lead to some sort of emotional imbalance or release, because that also happens. When it happens, I'm not really equipped with what to do. So please speak to the students who've done that before. But I'm just saying, it's like it can be very transformative also as a process every now and then, because it really is trying to figure out what's going on. Yeah? So in debate, if someone, now coming back, if someone just says what you're saying, either you try and unearth why they're saying that, or you just let it go. Yeah? Eventually. Okay? Naga, you had something?
You know how they say that moment to moment,
Yeah.
time continues?
Yeah.
Mine just stopped.
When? Where?
At the 3 possibilities.
Yeah, but that's why, Naga, that's why that stopping is because it sounds so funny. That's what I'm saying. Take one step more. You will be able to do it. And I've done it with you. We've been doing it for 3 years. So at least with you, I can say it's doable. It just sounds slightly strange initially.
I think we have done the double negation, right? Even in Sarah, but now I'm more confused with the triple.
Yeah, with the 3, that's there. So that's why I've given, the list is very long before you come to 3 possibilities and 4 possibilities, right? You have a long list of things to try. It's also very interesting to notice how none of you even bothered about the previous ones because you know that you'll be able to do them. The ones that we're stuck on are the last ones, right? You've got a long list. How many do you have? You have 15. Where do the possibilities ones start? I think at 10. How many did I give today? You have 13. And at what point does the 3 possibilities, 4 possibilities start? After 10, right? So there's 10 ones that are easy for you to do. Those 10, if you start with those tonight, that's going to keep getting the pattern ingrained. But again, just to repeat, tonight you please start asking the definitions. Remember that? It follows it is not this because it doesn't fulfill the definition. What is the definition? And then you ask the definition. So like this, you get practice with the definition as well. Okay? Is that okay? And then when you're familiar and you've warmed up, then you can do the 3 possibilities, 4 possibilities ones. Yeah? Is that okay? Yeah. Yeah. Okay? Do you want to try one more, or are you fried? We just did 3 and 4. Oh, you want to do the 3 and 4 now? Sure. You'll have to extend you'll have dinner 10 minutes later than planned. Take something that has 3 possibilities with red and something that has 4 possibilities with, let's do with shape. Okay? Shape. Something that has 3 possibilities with red and something that has 4 possibilities with shape. It follows they have 3 possibilities amongst themselves. It follows there are 4 possibilities. It follows the inclusive, or it follows the exclusive. Now if you find your mind going blank, breathe in and then just think about it. With shape? Is there anything that has 4 possibilities with shape? Something that has 4 possibilities with shape. It's tricky, no? What about cloud? Let's try. What about cloud? Take cloud. It follows it has 4 possibilities with shape. Answer? Wow, that was really easy, accept. Up till now you were all stressed out, suddenly accept. It follows it doesn't have 4 possibilities with shape. It follows it does have 4 possibilities with shape because there is something that is both. It follows there is something that is both because a round cloud is both shape and a cloud. Take a round cloud, it follows it is not shape. Take a round cloud, it follows it is shape. Take a round cloud, it follows it is shape because, okay, now I have to give a reason, I can't do that, okay? That was just an example, so we're not getting into the checking, okay? But take a square, it follows it is shape. Take a blue square, it follows it is shape. Take a round cloud, it follows it is shape. Why not? There's no round. Fine. Remember there was even and uneven? Take an uneven cloud, it follows it is shape. Fine. Take uneven cloud, it follows it is both cloud and shape. Take cloud, if it is cloud, it follows it is shape. For example. Huh? Louder. No, you wait, you answer. What? If it is cloud, it follows it is shape. If it is cloud, it follows it is necessarily shape. So give me an example. Grey cloud. Yeah, is that okay? If it is shape, it follows it is cloud. For example, you wait. For example, square. Is there something that is neither cloud nor shape? Why? For example, table. So take cloud and shape. It follows there are 4 possibilities. It follows there is something that can have 4 possibilities with cloud. That's okay. Your being sure or not being sure is inherent in the discussion. Is what? That is totally fine. That's the whole debate that's going to come up. It's okay, that's fine. But they right now have tried to go with it. So uneven cloud, for example, okay? Then also there's also what is the relation between primary color and secondary color? White cloud. What is a white cloud? Is a white cloud white? Is a white cloud a cloud? Take white cloud, it follows it is primary color. Take white cloud, it follows it is secondary color. It follows it as a secondary color because it is that which is fit to be a secondary hue. Reason not established? It follows it is fit to be a secondary hue because it is fit to be the hue of a cloud. Take white cloud, it follows it is a secondary hue. Take white cloud, it follows it is a secondary color. Take primary color and secondary color, it follows they're not mutually exclusive because they have a common look, because there is something that's both. Right? So, when you do these 4 and the 3, get creative. In the monastery, I was debating once with these, they do this thing in the winter, they send all of these students from Ladakh to the monastery in the south. And I remember we spent an entire afternoon debating whether honey is water or not. So, honey is water because it fulfills the definition of water. As we move forward, this is going to start coming up for you as well. So the more creative and the more kind of imaginative you can get, suddenly these barriers that have been erected between shape, color, smell, taste, tactile base, they suddenly start to seem a lot more flimsy. So try. Oh. Crowd is, then we get into the citations, right? So at some point, we'll have to start following the citation, which means, and I'll tell you this next time, and again, this is not something, is this another thing that we don't have lots of objections with this. Another thing that we do when we debate is when we have a text that we're basing ourselves on, we try and follow that text. And so things that are obviously stated in the text, we kind of are obliged to accept them. Now the reason we're obliged to accept them, just to clarify, is not because we have to say that this is right. It's because when it sets up a framework for you to function within, it makes you have to exercise your mental ability a little bit more. So it's with the intention of giving you certain guidelines, which when you then try and navigate within, your mental elasticity expands. So it's like it's setting up a maze by making all these corners where you get stuck in, and then by having to find a way to navigate out of them, then you find a way to get out. Yeah? So can I just give you one last example and then we'll stop? Again, Dudra Damdul once gave me the best analogy that I still really remember. He said, so, wait, oh, I don't have other books. I need books. Can you give me 2 texts, please? Actually, yeah, we can just go like this. No, it's fine. Here. So again, Dudra Damdul's example was like this. He said, right now, for all of you, I'm just giving the example because it really helped with me, okay? For all of you, this is debate. It's like you see an entry into something, but you see this big wall behind it, and you're stuck. So right now, all the text and all the definitions and all the stuff that you're doing is like this. It's like you trying to get to where I am, and this is standing in your way, okay? So it seems like you're never going to get here. You can't get past. This is Gen's example, okay? Then he says, as you get closer and closer from where you are, so right now it's like you're really far back and you're trying to figure out what's going on. And then there's all kinds of things that have been erected. You have divisions that have been given to you, definitions that have been given to you. You have to follow them, and it just seems like you're never going to get by. The closer you get by reasoning it out and thinking about it is like comparable to you coming closer to here. And then Gen says, and then when you come right up next to the wall, and then Gen did this. And you look, there's a little path or a little gap in between this one and this one, and you'll be able to get through. So right now, the text is unfortunately like this wall that's chucked in your face, and you have to say a cloud is color. Okay? But as you reason it out more, it might make sense to you why it is a color. It might make sense to you why it's included within color. It'll make sense to you on how to use white cloud as an example and not get stuck within the apparent contradiction between primary color and secondary color. So all of these things, the more you stay at them and the more you get closer and familiar with them, suddenly you start to see how to explain them and work your way through them, yeah? So this example really remained with me because I remember I was in Tibet House and Gen did this whole thing, and it really is like that. And it really helps later as well. So please don't take this to be, you have to follow the text because that's the only option you've got in life. It means when you're debating, this is a very good guideline to work within, yeah? So clouds are color, okay? You just kind of have to go with it for now. Okay? I don't remember. I gave 13, was it, Jay? Was it 13? 13. Yeah, so 13. Okay. When will we lead the place, please? The dedication?